Good stuff. How's everyone doing? Good. Awesome. Well, thanks to the Win the Storm team. Thanks for letting me come out. Josie Parks is a dear friend of mine. Love what you guys are doing with the event. This is awesome. Well, today we're going to talk about leadership. What makes a great leader? Tony Robbins said, "The chokehold on the growth of any organization is the psychology and the skill set of the leader." How many of you are in sales or in some leadership role right now of some form? Okay, yeah, most of the group. The psychology and the skill set of the leader is the chokehold. I think about this quote a lot. Okay, so this is a photo of me. This is in 2014 in Folsom, California, in our first office. Anybody been to Folsom, California? Nobody? Okay. Oh, a couple people. Okay, I see a couple hands. That's good. Good. That's where I grew up. That's where I went to high school. This is our first office. This was 10 years ago. This is one of our first employees, and our office happened to be also the supply closet. But I'm glad that someone snapped this photo, because honestly, I don't have a lot of photos from this time of life. This was a dark time. As many of you know, I know there's a lot of owners and leaders in the room. As you know, the early stages are very painful. A lot of stress, a lot of late nights, not a lot of sleep. You're borrowing money from family and friends, hoping that you're going to be able to pay them back someday. It's a tough time. But I think the hardest part about seeing this photo is looking at myself. I'm probably too hard on myself, but I see myself and I realize the work that I was going to have to do on myself in order to become a better leader and build an organization. But one thing I want to be clear about is I don't want to try and sound cool or try to make myself look special. I promise I'm a very ordinary guy, and this has been a very much a team effort, what we've built. But as Sam said, we have over 500 employees today. Last year we did 100 million in revenue, and what I've learned is that anybody can become a great leader if they set intention and if they follow a proven formula that I'm going to go through today. I'm going to share with you. Okay, so I started in door-to-door sales, like many probably, back in college as to make some college money. And I learned very quickly that the opportunity was, for me, that I was excited about was sales management. Here's an org chart. So the ability to sell is extremely valuable, to be able to go out and generate revenue and, out of thin air. That's very valuable to an organization. But even more valuable than that is the next level above, which is the person who knows how to train and manage the people who know how to go out and sell. The ability to duplicate yourself is even more valuable to an organization. But even more valuable than that, there's a level higher, and it's the person who knows how to train and manage the people who know how to train and manage the people who know how to sell. And by definition, that person is the most rare. They're the most difficult to replace, and therefore the most valuable to the team. And that's what I wanted to learn how to do. That's what I wanted to become. I wanted to be a capable leader. But then you do it, and it's hard. It's really hard. Anybody going through it right now? As leadership, sales management. It's tough. You got the late nights, long days, rep drama. You're like a therapist. You've got recruiting, managing your own personal volume with all the other responsibilities you have to do, and on and on and on. And it's tough. It's why most people can't do it. And what I've learned is that what I've found is most people will. There are many who find themselves in a management role, but very few actually get good at it. I think as organizations, we do tend to underinvest in management. We invest a lot into sales training, but we underinvest in management training. So, what is it that makes a great leader? So, I've been doing this for 16 years now, and I've seen a lot of people try and a lot of people fail. And so anytime that I hear somebody really light up about their leader, in a positive way, like they're just raving about their manager, I really get curious. I start to pay attention. Like what is it that makes a leader great? Because usually people are complaining about their managers. That's usually what we hear, is a lot of negativity. So when I hear someone speaking positively, it's like, what is it? Like I ask a lot of questions. And in this job, I've had the opportunity to share dinner tables with and interview some of the best in the sales industries. And I've learned that those at the top Those at the top running these great companies are true class acts that have 4 skills, four what I call the 4 multipliers. And those 4 multipliers are vision, skill, character, and action. So in other words, someone may find themselves in a leadership role because they have 1 or 2 of these, but they'll never break out. They'll always have like a glass ceiling on their growth until they have all 4 of these. So let's jump into them. So the first one's vision. So vision is the leader who thinks big. They're able to build a following and rally people behind a cause that's bigger than any one person, that goes beyond just making money, but a cause, more important. They have ambition for the cause that they put over their vain ambition, over their personal ambition. They put the team first. They're an evangelist for that cause. You hear them talking about it and preaching about it all the time. They have charisma. They're able to be an effective public speaker and move an audience and build a following. They see the big picture and they paint that picture for the people that work with them. And then that helps inspire the people that are on their team. They don't think like a sales rep anymore. They think like a business leader. They think bigger than that. One example of a leader with vision that I think about is Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs is a great example of this. And there's a famous story of him recruiting John Sculley in the late 80s. He was the CEO of Pepsi, so big public company. And Apple's still a fairly new business, making computers. So Steve Jobs is trying to recruit John Sculley, and John Sculley denies him. He says, "Hey, I'm going to stay where I'm at. I'm in a good spot. I don't want to come work at Apple." And there's a story where Steve Jobs calls him late at night, and he says, he's not taking no for an answer. He calls John late at night. He says, "John, listen. Do you want to be remembered for selling sugar water the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?" And as the story goes, he did. He went and became the CEO of Apple. And which, by the way, I thought that story was cool. And then I heard Steve Jobs was in his 20s when that happened. He's doing the 20s. He recruits this big CEO. Which, anyway, pretty cool. But Steve Jobs is a great example, someone who built something great and had vision. That's the type of influence that we get when we're strong in this category. Okay, that's vision. The second one is skill. So skill, this is the leader who's an expert at their craft. This is the leader who is a professional. These days, people don't want to work with amateurs, they want to work with pros, right? They're a pro at sales, but they're also a pro at being able to train in sales. And so they build a lot of influence with their team because their team sees them training and they get a lot of confidence that they can be successful as well. So, it's like the leader that gets up and does a training and people are literally taking out their phones and filming them because they're like, wow, I really like the way that they worded that. So you build a lot of influence that way. They know what to say. Their demeanor is cool, calm, and collected. They don't fly off the handle and lose their temper. They're able to maintain control and diffuse heated situations with either with customers or with sales reps. They exercise diplomacy. They're able to control conversations. They have that skill, and they're persuasive. A good example of this is there's a clip I saw from Wolf of Wall Street where Jordan Belfort goes and works for this penny stock company. Have you guys seen this clip? He goes and works. He's brand new there, and they're just selling these crappy penny stocks. But he gets on the phone and he's like, he's on the phone. He's like, "I want to talk to you about the latest technology that just came across my desk." He's like really selling it. And everyone that has been working there, they're all gathered around and start kind of listening to what he's saying. And, because he was so good, he was so smooth. And eventually, they all end up working for Jordan. That's the influence that he built with skill. Okay, the next one is character. This one's really important. So character is what makes your reps trust you and admire you. This is what builds loyalty. You do what you say. You have integrity. If you make a commitment, you keep it. If you break that commitment, you say you're sorry and you don't do that again. You've earned that trust. You're guided by values. You're not guided by your urges or your feelings or your appetites. You're guided by your principles that you live by. Your personal life is in order. Your people actually want to be like you. They see the situation that you're in and they feel confident that you can help get them what they want in life. The ability to admit fault. You can say sorry. I don't know why this one is so hard, especially with sales leaders. It's like, if you mess up, say you're sorry. That shows integrity. And you exercise extreme ownership. So these are some of my heroes. These are some leaders of high character. You've got Steve Covey, John Wooden, Abe Lincoln, men of high character. Some examples of being low in character that I've seen impact leaders, held back leaders' careers is, the sales industries are riddled with sales, with guys that are fast talking, charismatic. They talk a big game, but their personal life is a disaster. They've got, drug issues or drinking problem. They don't return their phone calls or texts. These are the type of things that will hold you back. These are the types of things that hold a leader back and make people not want to work for you. So these types of personality flaws are something you need to confront and you need to overcome. Okay, the last one, and probably most important, is action. Action is the leader that leads from the front. They understand that the speed of the team is the speed of the leader. They focus on value-add activities. And what I mean by that is they understand what activities drive the business, what activities move the needle, and they do that thing over and over and over. They don't avoid the hard work. In sales, you've seen this. Everybody wants to do, they'll do everything else and look busy doing, talking on the phone and doing all the things except for the one thing that they're supposed to be doing. And you've got to keep them focused on doing that one thing. And yourself focused on doing that, the things that are value add. Their attitude is shoot first, ask questions later, all offense, no defense, less talk, more action. And they have an admirable work ethic. There's a story about Napoleon Bonaparte on the far right here. Napoleon is, here they are, they're this tiny little country in Europe, and they end up taking over most of the European continent. I mean, it's just insane what they were able to do. And it was in large part because Napoleon, who was kind of a man of few words, Napoleon, he led from the front. He was a warrior, and so he wasn't afraid to be out there on the front lines and fight with his soldiers. There's stories of him, he got shot, he got stabbed. He had over a dozen horses that he was riding get killed from underneath him. He just ditches the horse and just keeps charging. He built so much influence and inspired his men so much because of his ability to lead from the front. So that's the type of influence that you gain by doing that. So once again, you need all four of these. So it's vision, skill, character, and action. A leader may find themselves in a leadership position because they have one or two of these typically. But what's rare is when you find someone that has all four, and you'll never break out until you master all four of these. So I think that's really important to understand. Okay, we've said for years that the four main job duties of a sales leader or sales manager are four things: to recruit, train, manage, and retain. Your job is to drive sales volume. So how do you do that? You do it with these four things. Well, these four multipliers, vision, skill, action, and character, and the reason I call them multipliers, by the way, is because they multiply on each other's effectiveness. They're multipliers. If you have these four multipliers, then you'll be able to do the job really well. So if you have vision, you're going to recruit people to your cause. If you have skill, you're going to train effectively. If you have action, then you're going to manage the right way. And if you have character, you're going to retain your people. You're going to retain a loyal base of reps that, they recruit their friends and they stay, and then you're able to grow. Okay, so next question is, okay, well, great. So I need these four things. Well, where do I start? So Ray Dalio says, everyone has at least one big thing that stands in the way of their success. Find yours and deal with it. So where do you start? You start with the big thing. You start with your biggest weakness, which can be really hard to do, to confront our weaknesses, because we tend to be interested in the subjects that we're interested in, not the subjects that we're bad at. But it's really important to find that thing that's standing in your way and confront it and deal with it. Is it vision? Is it skill? Is it character? Is it action? And deal with it. So that's where we start. Well, in order to do that, you need to be able to run a diagnostic on yourself. So I'll share a quick story. This is what we do with our leadership team. And I think it has helped us immensely. Basically using, data analytics to drive improvement. They do it in sports. Why don't you do it with your career, with your salespeople? It's one of the most valuable things you can do as a leader is to help your team level up and get better. So we do this survey regularly, and I want to pick on two people. So basically what we did is we ran a survey. We surveyed all the sales reps in the company, and they were rating their manager on 24 questions. And as a result, every manager got a chart that looks something like this. So I'm going to pick on two people. We'll pick on John and Kevin, but I've changed their names here to protect the innocent. So John was high in vision, but he was low in character. High in vision meaning that he was, like you'd go to his sales meetings, and these results were spot on, by the way. You go to his sales meetings and, the energy's really high. It's like electric in there. You're motivated. You're ready to run through a brick wall after these sales meetings. Like you get so motivated. He had no problem recruiting, and because people would hear him talk and they just wanted to be a part of what he was doing. But he was low in character, and so he had retention problems. So he would recruit really well, but people would leave. They'd stay for a few weeks and then they'd leave. Because he had character, he was low in character. He had a temper. He would yell at people. His personal life was a mess. He wasn't reliable. He'd say he'd do things and he wouldn't keep commitments. And so he got this data back. Now Kevin on the right here. So Kevin was high in skill, but he was low in action. When I say he's high in skill, he was the guy. You'd hear him raise his hand and talk, or he'd get up and he'd give his sales pitch. And it was like everyone's turning their heads. Everyone's filming him. He's amazing. How is this person not at the top of the company? And the answer was, if you look at the data, why? Because he was lazy. It was action. He was low in action. So he got this data back. Now I want to share with you 1 year later when we surveyed these same people. Okay, so remember John was low in character. So John confronts the brutal facts. He says, okay, I see now, this was kind of a blind spot for him. He thought that I was just this way. His terms were, I have a Latin temper. And anyway, but he's like, okay, I see that this is holding me back from growing in my career. So he goes to work on his temper. He starts reading the good books. He reads 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He reads How to Win Friends and Influence People. He starts being a better listener and these types of things. Well, 1 year later when we surveyed him, not only was he better at this, but as a result, his team size was twice as big and his income had doubled 1 year later. Remember Kevin was really skilled, but he was low in action. So Kevin, he gets the data back and he says, okay, I get it. I see that this is holding me back. And so he goes to work. And what had happened is he was a really good guy, but he was just get really caught up in the phone calls and the office work, but wasn't getting out and actually moving the needle. So he realizes that he was kind of treating the job like an employee, and he needed to treat it like an athlete. He was a sports guy, so he's like, I'm just going to go be an athlete, and I'm just going to go do the thing. I'm just going to go produce. And that's what he did. And a year later, he had tripled his team size and tripled his income. Just 1 year later from going to work on himself. That's the power of what can happen when we go and we work on ourselves as a leader and develop these things. So one other thing I want to point out here is that nobody does this and regrets it. They didn't make these changes and then say, oh yeah, I like the old me better. They're always progressing and moving forward. You will like it. You will like what happens. You'll like what happens to your bank account. And the other thing that I'll say is that this is not just some self-help, like feel-good, personal development stuff. It has tangible impacts on your career and on your bank account. You're going to make more money. You're going to start getting the promotions that you're getting passed up for, previously. You're going to grow your team and retain people better. I love this quote. This is by Jim Rohn. He said it best. He says, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. Work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Okay, so some takeaways for you. So number 1 is you need all 4. Again, it's not rare to find someone who has 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 of these 4. What's rare is when you find a leader that has all 4. So go to work on developing all 4 of these things. Number 2 is, where do you start? You start with your biggest weakness first. You confront the brutal fact, the thing that's standing in your way. You start with the chokehold. Tony Robbins called it that's the chokehold. Swallow the pill, the bitter pill. Do the thing that you've been avoiding. Get out there and take action. Again, give up the drinking habit or the drug habit or whatever's holding you back, because that's acting as a chokehold on your growth. That's where you want to start. The third one is stop training reps and start training leaders. And what I mean by that is eventually your biggest bottleneck is actually not recruiting sales reps, it's actually sales leaders. It's people that will perpetuate your sales culture when you're not in the room. People who will do and say what you would do if you were there. They would say the same thing. So that stop training reps and start training leaders. If you're just training reps, you're just training on two of these multipliers, but you want capable leaders. And then number 4 is get serious about your personal development. This is the first commitment that you should make, is getting serious about personal development. Read the books. Read the good books. They're so great. Again, you'll love them. They say that not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. And I've found that. That's one thing in common with every mastermind group or every peer group I've been in, is that these great leaders, is that they are reading books constantly. They're always working on the good books. And I could preach about this, forever, but the good books are, it's a life hack. The fact that you can spend time in your car, I usually do Audible. You spend time in your car, you're listening to these books, and it's just filling your head with good ideas. Eventually, those ideas become yours. And sometimes they're even narrating it. So you're hearing from you can listen to, John Wooden and Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy. You can listen to these guys, and they'll lay it all out for you. Like, here's how I think. This is the formula for success. So replace a lot of the music listening and that, whatever else you're doing in the car with books and become a reader. So I do want to go through some book recommendations for each multiplier. I'm looking at the time, and I'll kind of skim through these. But I'll tell you this, I have my email address at the end. So if you want these slides, I'm happy to send you these slides. I see some of you taking photos. If you want, I'll send you these slides if you email me. But these are some great books to get better at these attributes. Okay, super excited about this. So I do have a book coming out next month. I'm very, very excited. Yes, thank you. It's called Core 4 Leadership. Thank you, awesome. Yeah, it's called Core 4 Leadership. Today you got kind of the 20-minute snack version of it, but the book is going to be a deep dive into everything we just talked about. And in the book, you're going to find the survey that we use. You'll get all 24 questions of the survey that we use to survey our sales leaders. You're going to get case studies. It will be on Audible in I don't know however long it takes me to record the audio for it. But I don't want to tell you that because I don't want you to wait for the Audible book. But you're also going to get the all these book recommendations and practical ways where you can start becoming a better leader right now and start seeing results. So very excited for this. If you want more info on the book, I'll send out some kind of email updates on when it's coming out. Or if you want me to send you these slides, I'm happy to do that. Stay in touch. Here's kind of my info. But again, I know I've told some kind of personal stories here. I'm not trying to make myself sound cool or special. I'm, like I said, very ordinary guy. But what I have found is there are some beautiful things in store for you. When you can confront the things that you don't want to confront, the ugly things about yourself, the things that need to get better, the things that you need to improve. And when we go to work on ourselves, you're going to see some amazing things. And we've come a long way since this stinky office 10 years ago. Anyways, so I want to end with a quote here. So, edit your life frequently and ruthlessly. It is your masterpiece after all. This is your encouragement to keep going. Thanks for listening. Imagine where you could be 10 years from now. Go to work on yourself. Beautiful things are in store. The best is yet to come. Thanks, you guys. Awesome.